And the beat goes on for the West Virginia Mountaineers, and lately that means another loss for Bob Huggins' team. This a loss to Texas Tech, another one to Tech, 60-53 your score. The West Virginia Mountaineers have now lost 7 in a row. It's been the first time since I believe 2012 that has even happened to Bob Huggins' team. So this team desperately needs to win. They didn't get it on this day. This is your WVU postgame show here. I'm your host, as always, Mike Asti, and I am joined by our Ethan Bock, who covered this team at the Coliseum there. Teams without Taz Sherman, that's announced before the game, that's announced this morning. It was a possibility. He hasn't practiced, but ends up missing this game thanks to a concussion. So some could maybe argue this team played well without him and did play well against the top 15 team, was in the game late. They had their leading scorer missing the game. Bridges and McNeil did step up, and maybe it's a moral victory, but moral victories don't exist. They certainly don't exist in February when you're trying to get to March. And when this becomes your 7th straight loss, what can that really do for you? So, Ethan, what's your feeling about this team right now? It's hard to be too critical of a team that loses by only 7 without their leading scorer, who is 80% of the offense and clearly the guy. This team is going to go as far as Taz Sherman takes them. That is a top 15th team in Texas Tech, ranked 14 right now. But there were moments in this game that maybe they could also feel like they let this game slip away. They were at home. And just it's 7 in a row. At some point, you got to get a victory no matter what's going on against you, or this team's going to miss the tournament. So what's the feeling in comparison to they played well without Taz, but death taxes in West Virginia losing in the winter since the calendar has turned 2022? It's been hard to get a W for West Virginia.
Yeah, I think without Taz, they played really well up until probably the 10-minute mark in the second half. They never can have a consistent full game against these really good teams like Texas Tech, Baylor, Kansas, etc. It's cliche, but they do show a lot of heart, like guys like Gabe Osaboy and Kedrian Johnson, Pauly Cap. Those guys show a lot of heart, but at the same time, they never can just finish out a game and just steal a game from a team, and that's what they're missing on their resume.
And this game felt like one that maybe they could steal. Certainly, once again, playing tough in that first half, feeling like maybe they're even the better team after the first half and letting this game slip away in the second half. And Taz not being there didn't appear to be that much of an issue early in this game. It almost felt like that maybe Bridges in particular was able to be kind of unleashed. And when he was not able to be timid with his shooting touch with Taz not there, he had to take more shots. So did McNeil, and they were scoring in that first half, but then it certainly cooled off down the stretch in the second half. They went several minutes without even a basket, and that certainly was a problem for West Virginia. Bridges 16, McNeil 15, and then a big drop with a combined 8 points, the rest of the starting 5. It just was rough in terms of the offense without Taz Sherman here. Ethan Bock joining me here on our post-game show for the Mountaineers. Now 7 straight loss. This another one to Texas Tech. What did Bob Huggins say in terms of his evaluation of this game? Obviously, he's been kind of up and down, and it's almost been helter-skelter. He went from really critical of this team after a 3-game losing streak against all top 20 ranked teams. They then drop a game against Oklahoma, not ranked, at home. You feel like he would be upset. He kind of hangs tough and still wants to see what happens against Arkansas. They lose that as well. They then lose another game. And he's now saying, well, we're going to turn this around. I still believe in my guys. Completely a 180 from where he was a few games earlier. Now you lost 7 in a row, but Taz Sherman didn't play, and he's a question mark moving forward. Where is the state of Bob Huggins now? Because I feel like he's getting to be a difficult man to read.
Yeah, he is. He went 180 again tonight.
Okay.
Critical of the team, says you can't win a game if you're shooting 4 for 32 in the second half, which is a valid point.
Right.
But yeah, he's a little critical with this team.
Did that surprise you at all? Because Taz not being there, this almost felt like a game that maybe he could actually be friendly to the team because Taz isn't there, but yet it almost leads me to believe that he feels like the way this game unraveled and that he's very familiar with Tech, even though Taz wasn't there, they were very much in this game up until the last few minutes of that second half. And it almost feels like he did feel like they let this game slip away even without their best player.
Yeah, I think that's why he was critical on the team for kind of just fizzling out in the final 10 minutes of the game. He did
Yeah,
criticize the officials for ruining some of
right.
them. Some
We will get there as well. Yeah, we will certainly get there. Ethan Bock here joining me from WV Sports Now, of course. His game recap is there. Our video reaction is on Pittsburgh Sports Live and, of course, WV Sports Now. Mike Asti here, and the Mountaineers do lose 60-53. Now 7 straight, another one to Texas Tech. And not only do they need a conference win, they need a freaking win at this point here as the record moves to that dreaded 13-9 mark that Mountaineer fans don't want to hear either. What do you think needs to happen to correct the shift from the first half to the second half? Because yes, Taz Sherman didn't play in this game, and that is different than the previous 6. But what is very common to all of these 7 games, whether or not they're playing a ranked team or whether or not they're playing an unranked team, whether it's at home or away, is they play you tough in that first half. Some of these games have been leading after the first half. They haven't been trailing by more than 1 or 2 points after the first half. And then, as you said, it feels like a broken record every time we do one of these. They have a 5 or 6 minute scoring drought in that second half that just lets these games slip away. How can Bob Huggins get rid of that and get that corrected? Because now we're looking at a month of basketball with that keep happening regardless of who is on the floor.
Yeah, I think today, for example, without Taz, it was Jalen Bridges who stepped up in that role in the first half.
Right.
And he only took 3 shots in the second half. He should have been the guy that was running the offense in the second half, not Gabe getting to the free throw line, taking 10 free throws.
He broke the scoring drought. Gabe broke the scoring drought. Without his basket, they would have potentially still been struggling to get points.
Yeah. They just need Jalen should have ran. The offense should have been run through Jalen in the second half. He only took 3 shots, didn't score at all in the second half. He had 16 points in the first half, and that's all he came out with.
Yeah, I mean, Gabe, 8 points, 13 rebounds. I mean, overall, it's almost a double-double. That's kind of what you want out of him. It almost also feels like when Taz is out of the lineup, and again, this was announced this morning right before the game, so I'm sure Huggins knew for a while, but still, this team is so kind of led by one man, even more so than recent years, certainly more so than last year. It does almost feel like they don't know how to play with Taz, because Bridges and McNeil just want to be the Robin to someone else's Batman. They don't. It almost feels like they don't want the pressure of having to be the guy and missing those shots. Like Taz has had games like that where he missed a lot of shots. You're going to have those games when you're the guy. And then Gabe's a better suited as a bench player than get you tons of boards than having to be relied upon for 20 points. But in a game like this without Taz, it almost feels like they almost needed him to drive the paint and somehow give you 20 and 10 instead of the 8 and 13 for West Virginia to win this game. And they end up losing to Texas Tech here. Do you know anything about Taz's availability here moving forward? Because obviously he hasn't practiced, so it's not incredibly surprising he didn't play. But there were some that felt like that was a surprising news that he didn't play off of it being a concussion. You go through the protocol, of course. They desperately need him. So you obviously don't want to rush a concussion back, but they got to get a W. And without him moving forward here, I'm not sure when the next one comes.
Yeah. I don't know how concussion protocol works in college basketball compared to college football. I'm sure he has to test out of a couple of tests.
Right. There are tests. Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't be shocked if he plays against Iowa State on Tuesday. He was riding the bike before the game today.
Right.
Doing
so this is Saturday. That's Tuesday. Right. That you definitely have time to do a test in the middle there.
Yep. I don't know. No one knows what his availability is like going forward, but I wouldn't be surprised if he plays on Tuesday.
Is there anything from this game that even can actually be served as, to get somewhat optimistic here, as a bright spot that maybe Huggins could tweak something, or if Sherman cannot go, anything West Virginia can do to have a chance against Iowa State? That's another ranked team. That's another really must-win game. That is Tuesday. That's once again going to be a game on the spotlight. Obviously, if Taz plays, the offense will drive through him. He will take a lot of the shots that weren't taken by others. But what could this team do from this attempt without Taz on Tuesday? Or are they kind of just screwed here, and it almost appears this season going to get them in the NIT at best at this point here?
Yeah, I think without Taz, it's just more adversity for them to try and overcome, which can lead to a good thing. If they were able to steal this game from Texas Tech, that could have been a season momentum
Right.
swing.
Yeah.
So they have another opportunity on Tuesday if Taz doesn't play. So hopefully if he doesn't play, Huggins puts in like Seth Wilson, Kobe Johnson, gets freshmen in.
That's what I'm saying. Like, is there something else to the lineup they could tweak? Do you just need more shooting and less timid play from McNeil and Bridges? And do you actually change this starting five? Because again, Bridges, McNeil, 16, 15, that's normally okay for them, but you do need somebody to give you more when you don't have Taz there. And then you're looking at a combined 8 points otherwise. I mean, Cottrell literally put up 0 points. When you don't have Taz, you cannot have somebody in the starting five scoring 0. Can Huggins tweak this five? Do you expect maybe a different lineup potentially? Does Gabe get into that starting five if Taz is not there on Tuesday?
I think he rolls with the same starting five.
Okay.
I think Paulie gives him the energy that he wants. Isaiah starts just to set the tone, get his couple shots in. Seems like Isaiah will play the first stretch of the first half, and then he won't play the rest of the game. So
right.
I don't think Gabe starts. He's a good spark off the bench.
He is. Yeah, no, he definitely is in that role. And I guess who starts isn't that big of a deal, as you're mentioning, Huggins does kind of get you out of there quickly and then tweaks the lineup yet again. And then Gabe, to save his energy and be that spark plug, if he starts, unless it's a ceremonial start where he's out of there a minute in, then you're probably not getting the same level of play from him. So this team just is not balanced without Taz. It just doesn't feel like a five that is legitimately an NCAA tournament style team without Taz Sherman there. When he is there, it feels like they should have won some of these games recently and they should be a tournament team. They might still crawl in there, but without him, you're looking at a schedule here that is Iowa State coming up on Tuesday, as we're mentioning, currently the 20th ranked team in the country. Then they do have a bit of a respite. Not that these games are easy by any means, but Oklahoma State and Kansas State are the next couple, and they could, you'd figure, win one of those to get off of what then would be an 8-game losing streak. And then you got Kansas again, TCU, Iowa State again, Texas again, Oklahoma, who they already lost to, and then TCU to round things out. I mean, I'm finding it hard pressed to win more than 2 or 3 of those games remaining, certainly without Taz Sherman. And even with him, I could still see 4 or 5 wins max, if not less than that. What are your thoughts now down the stretch of this season in comparison to even last time we did a post-game show only a week or so ago? This team has now lost 7 in a row. And I think you would agree, based on our other conversation, that Oklahoma, certainly the Arkansas loss, those are the 2 killers of this losing streak, because those are 2 unranked teams, Oklahoma being at home. At least if you win one of those 2, or certainly both of them, you're not in the midst of this losing streak even without Taz. But how have your thoughts shifted? Where are you right now in the state of the West Virginia basketball program in terms of Ethan Bock, with what we know is coming up, the uncertainty around Taz Sherman, and now this is a 7-game losing streak that is really, really putting this team in trouble. I feel like it's almost under the radar with how much trouble they are in here. They certainly got to get to a level of wins, even in a tough conference, to crack the tournament, unless they go on a run in the Big 12 tournament, which I don't know how anyone could foresee based on what we're experiencing right now.
Yeah. The 7-game losing streak really put them in a hole. Now I think Joe Lenardi had them in the next 4 out. So right. They're probably they're looking at an NIT berth right now, and they're gonna have to win their way up.
Or to even legitimize that. I mean, if they finish with 14 wins, I don't know how you even get there.
Well, the good news for them is every game is a good win.
Right.
Or every win that they will get for the rest of the year is a good win. They're all quad 1 games, except like 1 or 2 games. So any win that they get here on out is considered a good win. So it's a win-win situation if they can win their games, which that's the key. They can't win their games. They can't close out play a full consistent 40 minutes of a game.
Yeah, it does appear that the playing, 2 halves, a full game, does appear to be a problem. They start strong, and then it just seemingly collapses, and you do have people out of turn. So it's hard to be too critical of a team without their best player. regardless of what that team is or what level that team is, because you fit into roles when your best player's not there and you've already played 20 plus games, you know your role, and you're being asked to step up into an entirely new role and do a lot more. And that is hard to put together in 3 hours, which is basically the case for Bridges and McNeil today. But if they can't do it and Taz isn't there, they're basically done. And even if Taz is there, they need more production from the rest. They need a sounder touch from him. They need more efficiency, and they got to figure out these scoring. Every team goes through them, but theirs just kills them. And trying to close these games just seemingly appears to be a real problem for the Mountaineers here as they lose 7 in a row, another one to Texas Tech. And I guess lastly here, Ethan, in particular for the game coming up on Tuesday, outside of obviously if Taz is there, they still need more. He maybe could help the charge. If Taz is not there, they need more from the others. Maybe they tweak the lineup, and certainly things need to improve regardless. But outside of what West Virginia can do, try to get that victory, what keys exist for that particular matchup off of even what you know about Iowa State for West Virginia fans that maybe haven't followed the Cyclones? They're the 20th ranked team in the country. They're not on national TV that often. They're not a sexy pick like many would offer for Kansas or even Texas Tech. They're not a pedigree blue blood program by any means. What can you tell us about Iowa State?
Well, they're also struggling here too. They started the year, they started out 12-0 and now they are 16-6. So
maybe this is the time to catch them. Yeah.
Any more win for West Virginia is a good win. You got a Iowa State team who's also looking to get a good win in the Big 12. They struggle on defensive rebounding, which is a good thing for West Virginia, because anytime West Virginia can go up against a team that struggles to rebound, they may have a shot at winning that battle.
Right.
So that's the key. That's the key for them on Tuesday night. If they can out rebound Iowa State, it puts themselves in a great chance to end the 7-game losing streak and maybe turn the season around somehow.
Yeah, and Iowa State's on a losing streak of their own. They've lost back-to-back. They only won a couple before that, and then they had lost back-to-back prior to that. So, yes, they've been struggling as well. They're also looking for a conference win, as you alluded to. They're losing. But their losses have been to Baylor and Texas Tech as well, and Oklahoma and Kansas. So it's a similar loss schedule to what West Virginia's put up. And maybe the rebounding will be able to be something that's easier for West Virginia, because outside of Gabe, they just got killed on the boards in this game. And it can't just be him when you're already losing the scoring battle, and your free throws were a problem that then got corrected, but they're irrelevant when you just don't take enough shots and the other shots just don't fall. And as we talked about before, there are 3 things that can happen when you shoot the ball. 2 of them are actually good. So 2 of them are good. Either you make it, go to the free throw line and draw a foul, or you miss. There's only one negative thing out of those 3 possibilities when you shoot the ball. But yeah, the timidness can't continue, especially if Taz is not there. But this West Virginia team, moral of the story here, regardless of this whole show and regardless of what we talked about here the last 15, 20 minutes, it is irrelevant. This team is now in a situation where every game not only is a quadrant run opportunity at a big win. I'll go one step further, Ethan. Literally every game the rest of the year is a must win. Certainly until they drop this losing streak. They cannot afford 8, 9, 10 game losing streak and think they're getting a bump in the NCAA tournament unless they do something in the Big 12 tournament, which again almost seems impossible to believe is going to happen at this point. Ethan Bock, again, I appreciate the time, man. We'll send you on your way there from the Coliseum. It's always, I'm sure, a fun afternoon in the Coliseum when you can be there over a weekend. But once again, after a West Virginia loss, Ethan Bock of WV Sports Now here. Find our coverage over there. Also find the video reaction here in Pittsburgh Sports Live. The Mountaineers lose yet again, now 7 in a row, losing this one 60-53 to Texas Tech. Mountaineer fans, do you guys even still know the words "The Country Roads"? Because right now it's been a while since that song has been able to be